Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino, that Penguino Projector here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today it is time for us to go into the breach. We played Into the Breach. Look, it's as clean of an intro as I can do. And joining me to discuss this game, as always, Pete Busby. Hello, Pete.
Hey, what's going on? This is my pick. I thought it was going to be a real-time strategy. It kind of was, but spoiler alert, it kind of wasn't. So we'll talk about that. But fun fact for this week, this one's actually pretty fun. I know they're not always. I'll read the title. This is from an article in Animal Cognition. It's titled, Experimental Evidence of Contagious Yawning in Budgerigars. Budgerigars. They are a type of parakeet.
Ooh.
And apparently they're the only animals so far other than humans where yawns are contagious. So if one of these tiny little parakeet sort of things sees another one yawn, it will start to yawn, which is adorable. But they also think it might be an indication of empathy, which could be a stretch, but, it's at least cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay, so humans are empathetic.
Yes.
Humans, when my dog yawns, I tend to yawn. Mm-hmm. Is it cross-species as well?
I think so. No, I can't. I should have confirmed this. I'm pretty sure they're the only other animals that do it, but they might be the only non-mammals, now that I think about it. I mean, all animals yawn.
Yes,
but they are definitely like a rare version of a contagious yawn.
Yeah, because I have sometimes yawned, and then my dog has yawned immediately after, and I have yawned after my dog has yawned. And I am not sure if it's the same empathy thing, because I know it happens when I am around other people. Does this mean I'm easily influenced? Is that what this means?
It means you're mentally weak, Gino.
Oh, damn it.
That's what we're getting out of this, yeah.
Damn it.
Which is why I've never yawned ever.
It's a mental strength.
Yep.
That other voice you hear is our mistress of games, M. Palladino.
Hello. This game, I went through the full range of emotions playing it, and now I have a begrudging respect for it. So, that's fun.
It's nice to come around the other side, Sometimes you go in and it's like, fuck this game. And then you come out the other side and you're like, all right, I see what you were going for there. Usually it's just like, fuck this game, and then I stop playing it.
Sometimes it's like, this is terrible. And then you're like, you know what? Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood's really misunderstood.
The only game that has ever gone through that.
Boy, there's so much game there that doesn't need to be... one day you should check out Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. You can borrow my DS copy.
Do I have to?
You don't have to.
Okay.
But someone
It's not as if either this is the only game with a colon we've ever played.
No.
It's just the only one we've played every time.
Yes, Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. Would it change your mind at all, Em, if I told you that it was made by BioWare?
What BioWare era?
This was at the height of Mass Effect. So
wow.
Squaresoft made the Mario RPG at the peak of their powers. So clearly, the only way to do Sonic justice was to get the greatest RPG maker of the early 2000s,
Wait,
BioWare.
Squaresoft made the Mario RPGs?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, Super Mario, Legend of the Seven Stars? The Super Mario RPG. Not Paper Mario.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo game.
Oh.
Yeah. So
did they make the DS version that came out later?
No.
There's a DS version?
I don't know that.
There's a Mario and Luigi something in
Bowser's
time.
Inside Story.
Oh, yeah. That's
all
the
those
brothers, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Different
Yeah.
thing.
Those are not made by Squaresoft. It's just the Super Mario RPG, the Super Nintendo game.
That's why it was so different than everything else.
Yep.
I understand.
Yep. And so, BioWare made this one, so there are dialogue trees. Will you romance Amy? What's Amy? Is she a hedgehog?
She's a.
We're
gonna. No, we can't get into this.
She's not a rabbit.
People are very intense about their Sonic.
Or will you date Cream the rabbit?
That is correct. Cream is a rabbit.
Cream is a rabbit. Amy's a hedge. I'm not gonna say.
What's the one with wings? Is she just like a straight up bat?
Rouge the bat.
Rouge the bat.
She's a bat.
She is a bat.
She's a bat.
We're confident on that one.
Yes. Welcome to our Into the Breach podcast. Before we get into that, our normal housekeeping, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can send us emails. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens, and if you did so, you'd get access to our Discord. But before we go to the Discord report, Em, I think we had a comment on one of the YouTube postings.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, this was a doozy.
Well, not that doozy. ZP read that one in a Final Fantasy podcast that's going to be coming up in the not too distant future. But
we have a different one.
Yes, we do. Let me just find it, because it was on our Silent Hill 2 episode.
Oh, the one that just came out.
Yes, and it said, this comes from Milo Zabal on YouTube, which always means they're good. What are you saying with the question marks in Spanish, the upside down question mark and then the right side up question mark? What are you saying? No, the must play is the first one. That's it. That's the whole comment.
So are they saying Silent Hill 1 is better?
We should have played Silent Hill 1 instead?
They're saying, yes, we should have played Silent Hill 1
instead
of Silent Hill 2. And Silent Hill 1 also has its merits. I'm not going to say that that's wrong. Silent Hill 1 is a good game. It's probably the most technically impressive just for its era.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
we didn't
also
say
less
that we wouldn't play it. We just played this one.
Yeah, I mean, we've played 4. We've played this one. Maybe one day we'll play the original. Also, the original has tank controls and there's no choice about it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so you're welcome.
In true Deep Listens fashion, we always start with the second installation in the series.
We started with the fourth.
We never play the first one.
So
this one we start with the fourth, which was off our usual pattern, but we'll allow it.
We've just been dividing by 2. We started at 4, then we go to 2, then we'll go to 1, and then we'll go to Origins, I guess, because that's a prequel to 1.
God, there's so many Silent Hill games.
Can I opt out of all of this? Can I just be like, no?
Yeah,
Can we veto games?
We'll pawn it off on Off the Deep End if we have to.
Maybe in the Discord, if people bring it up, we could come up with some sort of veto system. Em, what's going on in the Discord report?
The Discord report. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. This past week was Extra Life?
Yes.
Yeah, I remembered. I didn't say the other thing that we usually do, but I was definitely thinking it.
It's not the Community Endurance Run, which happens in April.
Yes. Extra Life happened. You might have heard about this because it's all over the internet, everywhere. You played games?
What played did you play? Psychonauts 2. I got to the part where Sam explains how to make pancakes.
Right.
And then I was like, well, that was about 3 hours, and I called it there. I also put batteries into Gen 1 Digimon and tried to raise them during the stream.
How is that going?
All 5 of them are still alive. They are now evolved.
Yay.
I will hopefully do a stream in the not too distant future where I have them fight to the death.
Do you know what? You know what I always thought was an underappreciated technology? Do you remember that game where it was basically like Digimon, but you had to scan barcodes?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Scanners.
Right? I feel like that was underappreciated. I don't know why that died.
Yeah.
I guess it's Amazon's fault, just like everything else.
Probably.
I played Monster Rancher recently. That also had great technology.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my Digimon are now 3 Numemons, the slug monsters, a Tyrannomon, and I think a Devimon. I'm not sure what it is.
Gino, can I ask?
Yes.
In like,
anything.
Thank you. In like Digimon games, how does the evolution work? Because I remember in the show there were basically no rules. They would evolve and devolve at seemingly random.
So this is literally like the Tamagotchi toy that I have. So
Nice.
it's all one way. They start at an egg, they then become the baby form, then the like slightly bigger baby form, then their rookie form, so Agumon or Betamon are the two that are available. Then they evolve into champions. Then if you take really good care of them, they can turn into like a Metal Greymon or something. And then they die of old age or because you
Gotcha.
fight them to death.
Is it like Tamagotchi where it's like you pay attention and like raise them basically to get them to evolve?
Yes, you need
Okay.
to like feed them on time. You need to put them to bed at the right time, or not. Like if you fuck up with some of them, that'll cause them to evolve differently. So like some amount of messing up is actually fine. You'll get different Digimon if you do it that way. In the video games, it's tended to be one way. They don't evolve and devolve like they do in the show. It tends to be one way, and then they die and turn into an egg.
At some point, in order to appease my roommate, we're going to have to play the PlayStation 1
Digimon World?
Digimon World, which is apparently unbeatable.
It's incredible. It's so good.
Yeah.
I have it. I was
Do
going
you?
to say I will eventually pick that game.
Like
Oh,
literally
God, please
cannot be
don't.
won.
No, you can
It's-
win it. It's weird.
Okay.
It's very strange.
It's a very weird game.
Well, Gino will pick it at some point, and then we'll have to discuss it.
Yes.
And until then, I will not think about it at all.
I did speaking of charity streams, many years ago, former co-host of the Deep Listens podcast, Billy Rothert, did a torture chamber for the GBCER where he played Digimon World for hours trying to make progress in that game with me not giving him any help.
Did he get anywhere?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really.
So about right for the game.
Yep. Yeah, so that's what we did. I raised $420. Nice.
Nice.
ZP raised $777, I believe.
You got a little over, I think.
Yeah. So
Gino, did you deliberately stop at 420?
I wanted $1,000, but like I was at around 420 when I was swapping out so ZP could swap in. And so
Were
I
you
was
at-
like, let's just get to 420.69 and then
I was gonna say, were you at like 69 and you're like, that's probably not enough money. Try to put us 420.
yeah, basically.
69 420 would be too much. $69.42, rounding to zero, too little.
Yeah, so it worked out. ZP played Draken.
Yep. He's not very good at that game.
He's not, but it inspired someone here to look at Draken.
Yeah, unfortunately. I don't know, Pete, have you ever watched ZP play games?
I'm trying to think. Maybe the only one I have is that Pigeon Dating Simulator.
Mm-hmm.
What was it called?
That
Hot
was
Boyfriend?
Hatful Boyfriend, yep. Well, if you watch ZP play games, it is infuriating. And I was like, I could play this game.
I can play this better.
This game from 1990, Draken, critically acclaimed for being painfully difficult with the shark that eats you when you try and cross into the first dungeon.
It just kills your character instantly.
Yeah, it's very fast. If you move wrong going across this drawbridge, it will just like jump out of the water, gobble you up, and you die.
How do you avoid it?
You
You have
time
to
it
Walk
right.
the right way?
Yeah,
Oh,
you have
okay.
to wait
Dumb.
until it's on the right side of the thing so it can't jump at you. It can only go forward. It cannot go backward.
Also, if you fall in the moat, your character just starts to drown until the shark shows up, and then they explode into blood.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a good game.
Yeah. But I was providing ZP with tips to try and help him progress, and he did not get very far. I think he got to the second dungeon, and then I was like, I'm going to play this. And then I did a lot better. And then I decided I did not want to play it anymore, and I stopped. So someday I will return to it.
But don't you need to beat it so you can get your illicit game for
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Arbitrary Water, co-host of the Off the Defense podcast, bet you that you couldn't beat it, and if you did, I think he said he'd give you like a up to $15 value of game.
Yeah. So this game is $5. I was gonna triple my investment, and get a game that I actually want. So I guess I have to finish it.
Look, it's your decision. It's you decide what your time is worth.
True. I mean, I already put like 7 hours into it, so I might as well go the full 20.
Always go for the full Draken.
Yep.
We also had a Silent Hill watch party. We watched the Silent Hill movie, the first movie. That movie's not very good.
I thought it was fine.
It's got vibes. It's fine. Like, the vibes are good. The storytelling is problematic. It backloads all of it.
In true Silent Hill fashion.
Yes. That, you know what? It is true to the source material.
Mhm.
And I then sat, after y'all left, I watched Silent Hill Revelations.
You didn't have to do that.
I didn't have to do that, but I wanted to know.
And what have you learned?
Kit Harington is in that film.
Like Jon Snow, Kit Harington?
Like Jon Snow, Kit Harington. Playing a young boy from West Virginia.
Really? That is a full send.
Yeah.
Apparently he doesn't hide his accent at all.
No, he tried, like, they very clearly, he tries occasionally. But he doesn't have, like, a Virginia accent. He's got, like, unplaceable accent, and then it's occasionally British. So that's very funny every time it happens. That movie is way more inscrutable, but also Silent Hill 3 is way more inscrutable than Silent Hill 1. So I don't, I understand that they had a more difficult task to tell that story. And also they have another problem, which is that Silent Hill 1, which is the first movie, has like one location, and then they have a couple other locations, so Sean Bean has something to do. Silent Hill 3 is like, it takes place in multiple locations, so you can see that their lesser budget was stretched in spots. So yeah, it's not a great film, but I watched it.
And you could watch movies with us too if you join the Discord.
It's true.
When they're relevant to the thing we're playing.
Yeah, we do not promise they'll be good movies. Far from.
No.
You could
Yo, we should watch The Spirit of Christmas.
What
Why?
is the Spirit of Christmas?
Oh, it's a Hallmark movie about a real estate broker.
Oh, I do know this.
I'm already out. I didn't like any of those words.
So she's a real estate broker who's trying to sell a hotel in Vermont, I think. And she's from Boston. She's from the big city. And she doesn't like the small towns. But she has to go there because no appraiser will appraise this hotel because it's haunted.
Is there like any video game connection? Like, do you see like an Xbox in the background?
No,
one scene or something?
it's just a dumb
Gino
movie.
just likes this movie.
Okay.
She falls in love with the ghost.
Yeah, it's like reverse Nightmare Before Christmas. It's a haunting on Christmas.
Yes.
Excellent. I got a real good feel for the movie now. Thank you.
Yes. Fine. If it has to be a video game movie, let's watch the Doom movie.
Oh God.
The one with The Rock?
With The Rock, before The Rock was regarded as an actor.
That one's okay. I've seen that one.
It's totally fine. All right, well, before we get to the show, just time for my obsession of the week, which I've got some breaking news. It is now Fatbird Winter once again.
Oh, snap.
Fatbird winner.
Fatbird Winter is back. We have a Fatbird Winter alert. Birds are now chunky, husky, rotund little burbs, floating around, waddling all over the place. It's back, folks. So get ready. The birds will be thick for the next several months, and enjoy that. I recently saw a very, very thick sparrow and a very, very thick finch. And I was like, wow, you can barely move, buddy. So yeah, enjoy. All right, so without further ado, Into the Breach. Pete, you picked it.
Yeah. So Into the Breach, you pilot a team of 3 mechs on what's the size of it? Is it like 12 by 12?
8 by 8.
8 by 8.
It's
On
a
an 8 by
chessboard.
8. Oh yeah, that's a good point. I bet they did that on purpose. On an 8 by 8 grid, you fight against a bunch of big ass bug kaiju, and you have to kill them before they, shatter a few objectives. So it's destroying buildings, killing your mechs, some ancillary other ones at certain points. The basic premise is Earth is under attack, and you have to save the world, but it's okay if you fail, because they can then send you back in time to try again. It's sort of like that horrible Chris Pratt movie that I hope I never have to watch, but in reverse.
Horrible Chris Pratt movie.
Which
Yeah,
one
the one
could
on
that be?
Amazon.
Which one is that one?
Here, I'm sorry, I should have specified. He's playing Mario. I don't know if you heard about this.
Garfield? The Garfield movie? That Chris
No.
Pratt movie?
There's someone on I'll look up the name. It's one on Amazon where he's like a time traveling soldier.
Oh,
Where everyone
okay.
has to be action heroes now for some reason.
Okay. Say you could have gone with what's the one with Tom Cruise? Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow, but that one's actually good.
That one's a good movie.
Is it?
It is. It's very good.
Yeah, it's actually really good.
Yeah, if you want to see someone who's stuck in a time loop slowly lose their grip on reality, that's a pretty good movie.
Or the one with Andy Samberg.
That one's also very
Really
good.
good. Very different tone, but another good time loop movie. It's called The Tomorrow War. This is the Chris Pratt one, so it also has a dumb title.
Fuck. That is the most generic title it could have ever. I didn't even know it was about time travel. I just assumed it was the soldier movie. All right, well, Chris Pratt aside, you're just kind of like, this is how it sets up the roguelike element of Into the Breach. So this game is by Subset Games, the makers of FTL. It came out in 2018, and where FTL was a roguelike, like kind of space combat game, this is a roguelike, almost like RTS. Though I think the game kind of immediately calls into question whether it is a strategy game or whether it's a puzzle game. Do you want to go into like the distinction here and why that distinction I think should be made on what this game is?
So when I originally opened this game up, I was expecting Advanced Wars or Fire Emblem, which is you have your preset army, you take it into fixed battles, and then there is permadeath, stuff like that. But that is not what this game is. This game is a procedurally generated challenge each time. You are basically fixed in a chess-like movement for your mechs. They all have specific moves that they can do, which will move the Vec around. That's the name of the kaiju monsters that you're fighting. So you kind of have to plan your moves accordingly, and there are various indicators of how this game differs from something like Advanced Wars or Fire Emblem. The biggest one that I should have tipped me off right off the bat was the fact that you can undo your movement and also reset your turn. If you mess up real bad, you can do this once per mission. You can rewind time to the start of the turn, so maybe you can plan a little bit better. So it's very much like setting up your mechs to kill the most stuff as quickly as possible, protect your objectives, protect yourself, and ideally you will not lose all of your what do you call it?
Power.
Power, yes.
So the fail state is there's a power meter that at the beginning of the game, I think it's either got 4 pips or 5. And every building that gets knocked out costs you a power. There will be optional objectives during most missions that will either give you fame, which or respect that can be cashed in for upgrades if you beat an island. There are 4 islands in this game. At the end of every island, you can spend respect a reputation point. Reputation, I think, is the actual one.
Yes.
Reputation you can spend to buy upgrades for your units, or you can buy energy. And then there's also energy pips that you can get for completing these missions as well. So the goal is actually just to get to the end of the island with power still. You don't actually need to kill all of the enemies in most of these missions, and in a lot of cases it's impossible to kill all of the enemies, which is a pretty big divergence from games like Fire Emblem. A lot of strategy games, like the only objective is kill all enemies or defend a thing. Every mission in this game is a battle of defending. So in a lot of cases... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, just another one of the big indications that M didn't mention is there's also a visible turn order to what the enemies will do.
Yes.
So you know, like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, here's the order they'll move in. So I need 1 to attack 3 first before 3 can move. And, like, you really have to sort of game out who's moving when as well.
Yeah, and the game shows you every single attack that the enemy is going to do, what direction they're going to shoot in, if they move before they attack. Like, you get to see everything. And enemies will not reconsider their moves if their move becomes disadvantageous. So if you, like, push an enemy into the line of fire of another enemy, that doesn't mean they won't shoot. They will just shoot and kill their own unit. And your characters always remark on this. They're like, the Vec, they have no problem killing their own. What are these creatures? Which I always found very funny.
There are a lot of good little thematic quips that they do sometimes.
Yeah,
Very genre.
For sure. And so, like, the game, it is as much about stopping the Vec. It is much more about stopping the Vec from blowing up buildings than it is killing them. Like, if your unit goes down in combat, you will lose the pilot of that unit, but the unit can run on autopilot in subsequent missions. So keeping your units alive is of less importance than the buildings in all cases. Now, you might not be able to win if you lose a pilot, because pilots give you upgrades to your unit. They'll make your mech more powerful if it's piloted than if it's on autopilot. But the highest priority thing is just keep the grid up and survive in advance. Basically, survive in advance as far as you can.
Mm-hmm. Another indicator is the fact that you have a percentage chance that buildings will, like, defend themselves. So if you, like, can only defend so much, there is a possibility it starts at like 15%, but you can get as high as like 30, I think, that you will not take damage. And so if you are unable to, like, defend all of your stuff, you can sort of get that, like, save at the last possible moment. But it's hard to rely on. It's not very consistent.
Yeah, I think I topped my building defense out at like 40-something one time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got a lot of energy. My units just, like, ran away with that run. And at a certain point, they give you diminishing returns. Like, early, basically the way you get extra grid, extra defense for your buildings is if you get energy after you have maxed out the amount of energy you're allowed to have. That will just convert into defense. And it starts out by giving you plus 2%. And at a certain point, you cap out, it starts giving you plus 1%.
Yeah. Literally right before we started recording, I had my first run where I finished all 4 islands.
Ooh.
Because you can only complete 2 and then go to the final island, which is like the boss battle, basically.
Yep. And it scales, depending on how many islands you go to.
I like Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then I was able to get my power up to like 25, I think, which is not close to the max, but it's better than, like, what I usually am going in with.
Yeah, and 1 out of 4 times your building not going down is pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, what did we think? So this game feels a little bit more, and I'm taking this observation a little bit from Arbitrary Water, co-host of Off the Defense, but this game is a little bit more of a chess puzzle than it is a regular, straightforward strategy game, because you're spending so much more time looking at the board and planning moves ahead. And really, you can only plan out, like, 1 move ahead, because enemies will arrive after every single turn. You can block them from arriving by placing a unit or an enemy or an object on top of one of the emergence holes. but once the enemies show up, they get a free move without you being able to do anything. And so you really just need to try to optimize every single turn as if it's the only turn that will ever happen, and try to plan ahead a little bit. But it's really just like, here's the board, here's the state, here's what your characters can do, here's where they can move. Find the optimal move. There are a number of moves that are suboptimal, but if you find the optimal move, you'll be good. Anything else will probably end up with you losing the run at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it will snowball if you let it go on for too long, because you only have 3 mechs and there is a limited amount of effect you can have on the board. So if you let too many spawn, you're not killing them fast enough, it will get out of hand, and then you won't be able to defend as well.
Yeah, and I think the game does a really good job in terms of how it spawns enemies and what the enemies decide to do. It does a really good job of providing you with solvable challenges. Like, they might be difficult, it might take you a bit of time to think through, and there are some times where you're just kind of screwed because this game gives you a starter set of mechs that have specific abilities. Like, the starter mechs, one can punch, and if it punches a unit, I think it does 1 damage and then knocks them back 1 square. One's got a cannon and it shoots on a straight line, and if it hits something, it knocks it back. And then one's got a missile, and if it hits something, it will damage the unit it hits and will push all the units adjacent to that unit back 1 square. So, like, that's the really default unit set. But there are, like, I think 8 different teams all told, something like that.
Yeah, you can also build custom teams.
And random teams, yeah.
Yes.
So, like, those teams each have their own unique mechanics to them, and sometimes the game will throw a challenge at you that your units just can't really handle well, especially in the early game when you just have the mechs and almost nothing else. But for the most part, if you stop and think, the game it doesn't just send the enemies in the most optimal way for the enemies to kill you. It will present you with problems that tend to be solvable.
Yeah. At most, you might have to sacrifice something, like whether it's one of your mechs taking damage or a building going down. But, like, enemies could probably end the game in a turn if they cared to. They just sort of don't care to.
Yeah, like, there are definitely times when multiple enemies, instead of, there are 5 enemies on the screen, instead of each of them picking a different building to attack in such a way that I can't take them all out at once, like, maybe one of them won't even do anything. 2 of them will surround one of my units instead of going after the building, and then one of them will go after a building. And that's solvable, but they had the tools to beat me dead to rights. And so, Em, what do you think, like, as a game designer, what did you think of this game's ability to present you with solvable problems with such a wide variety of enemy types and units that you can hold?
Right. I think that it working on this grid and the enemies having their preset moves that all you can sort of plan around, that is pretty helpful in not screwing you over a lot of the time. But also, on some level, the AI seems to pull its punches, at least in the first at least 1 or 2 islands. After Island 3, they start to get pretty tough, and then Island 4 is ridiculous, usually, where it's just a lot of stuff spawning, and they seem to be making pretty optimal plays, in my experience anyway. So there's always like a level of attention as the game designer you have to put into this, because if let's say, for instance, turn 1, you see a time pod come down, and then if the enemy could just go immediately onto that time pod, you would lose it right off the bat.
Yeah, and time pods are like treasure chests that spawn.
Yeah.
If you collect them, or if it survives combat, you get whatever is inside of it. If it gets stepped on by an enemy or attacked by an enemy, you will lose that content.
Yeah, and they won't step on it themselves. You would have to push them into that in order to lose it. But if they do damage, like, over that panel, then it'll explode. But generally, they don't target it as if it's like a structure on the board. It's more something that like you have to plan around rather than they will actively attack it, which seems to be a deliberate choice on the game designer's part, because otherwise you would like basically get screwed out of a lot of the things that are going to help you along once you're getting to like the more intense stuff. Because there are like pilots in there. Sometimes there's energy to power your mech abilities, stuff like that. And also like other moves that you can do. So that sort of thing was very indicative of like what they were paying attention to when they were designing it. Because it would have been very easy to just let the AI do whatever, and then people would be like salty about it because there was nothing they could do to stop the like failure on that objective. So generally they do seem to go after the main target of a mission. Like if you have a power plant or something, they do tend to prioritize that over other buildings in the area. But usually only one or two will target it at once. It won't be like everything on every panel around it.
They attack it with a manageable number. It's like,
yes.
Okay, there's this one dude, I'll just knock him off of the target. But if they decided to gang up, you'd just be screwed.
Yeah, exactly. If they like plan their tactics to any degree, they would not put themselves in a position to kill each other ever. But that's part of the game, and they would go for the thing that is going to make you lose the mission, basically. And even then, you don't lose the mission. You would just like lose some power and also not get a star at the end of it, or 2 stars or something. So in theory, you could give up that position and just take the hit, but you won't get the rewards for it. So it's a trade-off. But generally, I didn't find that I would ever lose that. That would be the first thing I would defend if it was the main target, and then like secondary buildings which just have people in them. You can sometimes leave it up to fate if like you're about to go down.
Yeah, I think the level up moment for me, and I wonder if it's the same for both of you, was the moment when I realized actually body blocking things with my mechs is as valuable as taking out the enemy, and so I should be doing that all the time.
Yeah, your point about body blocking is well taken. It makes it a lot easier too if you have the armored ability, so that's one of sort of the pilot special abilities. And basically it just decreases enemy damage by 1, and most of the enemies only do 1 damage anyway, so it basically means nobody can hurt you once you have it, which is nice.
Yeah, and it also super helps if you have to take a hit because your unit, some units have friendly fire sort of stuff, so having an armored unit that can take a hit, or some attacks will also self-damage. So if you have an armored unit, sometimes the self-damage will be mitigated by armored, which is cool. What did you feel about the design decision? Like, there are a couple of types of damage that do not get mitigated by armored. If you're standing on top of a spawn point for an enemy, you will still take 1 damage even if you're armored. If you get bumped into something, so if something bumps into a square, it will damage the unit that bumps into that square and the unit that is in that square. And that sort of bumping damage is not mitigated by armored either. So did that bother you, or it seemed fine?
I mean, I never had armored. Is that a pilot? Is that a pilot ability?
There is a pilot who will give a whatever mech he's piloting armored. There are also some custom. So some of the unlockable mechs have armored.
That's why. For the listeners, I've already said this, but I played almost the entire game with the starting units, the punchy mech, the tank, and the artillery piece. I tried some of the other sets, but I felt like I wanted to get good with the original starting kit before I got like to fancy stuff like pushing and pulling things and flamethrowers, and I don't even know what other stuff was in there.
There's a smoke team. So smoke in this game or dust makes it so anything in dust can't attack, and it will cancel anything's attacks that move into dust. So they kind of manipulate enemy turns by smoking them so that they can't see anymore. And then they have one unit that has a passive electrical charge that will turn smoke dangerous. So it'll deal 1 damage to any unit that's in smoke at end of turn. So you're smoking up to stop people from attacking, and also it's offensive. There's an electric team where one of the units has a lightning like punch that will arc between all adjacent units, anything that's making contact with the unit that you first hit, and it will chain as far as it can go. There's an ice team, a fire team, a poison team. There's a kind of location manipulation team that's all about like moving stuff around. Their damage is shit, but they can manipulate where units are sitting. And there's a self-damage team, that the hazardous mechs, that almost all of their attacks are very powerful, but they hurt themselves when they do it. And they heal when they kill enemies. So
that's neat.
Yeah.
So it's all of the core mechanics are represented, basically.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pete, what was your favorite team since you played around with it?
Yeah. I got a lot of fun out of the fire team because it's really fun, honestly, to just set the entire map on fire. And they also have what might be one of the best science mechs. They're sort of the sneaky ones. They have the teleporter mech, which can swap its location with any other enemy or mech. It's terrible at first because it's only adjacent, but if you upgrade enough, you can do it 2 tiles in any direction, which is pretty sweet, honestly. So I got a lot of work out of the fire. The electricity mech is basically the same team as the fire one, honestly, with like a little bit of difference in terms of attack area.
Yeah, the Blitzkrieg, I had trouble with that one because
Yeah.
the electricity, it will arc from enemy units into your own units too if they're adjacent. And buildings.
If you don't shut that. You can upgrade to take that off, but default it goes to buildings too.
Yeah, so I had a hard time with that one because the early matches, if you punch the wrong enemy with your electric mech, which is the only one that does good damage in that entire team, one of the units in that team doesn't even have an attack that does damage. It just like moves things. It's very easy to kill yourself by electrocuting like 3 buildings because they're all touching, which sucks.
Yeah, it does. I wanted to like the Iron Judoka more too. They're the ones that specialize in like movement manipulation, moving the enemies, but their damage output is just horrible, except for the throw mech if you max out his upgrades. But that takes a lot of points.
Yeah, I wanted to like the Steel Judoka for sure, and I didn't like it at all. My favorite was definitely the Rusting Hulks, which is the smoke team. Because the smoke team, because the smoke both disables enemies and damages them, it just gives you a lot of control while also having damage. And they probably have, I think, the best mech in my opinion, which is their ranged mech. It is the mech that has the passive electrocution system, so that's one thing going for it. And its missile, it shoots smoke exhaust behind them, and it shoots a missile in front that will push an enemy back 1 square. So it's got the ability to do like at a baseline. It can attack things next to it, which most of these ranged mechs can't. That's the downside of the mortar mechs. And it's got the ability to deal up to 2 damage at a baseline. So I found that just upgrading that mech, I actually beat the game with 3 copies of that mech. I beat the game 3 times. Once with Rusting Hulks, once with 3 copies of that unit, and once with the hazardous mechs, the mechs that self-damage.
Right. It's basically glass cannons all around, yeah.
Yeah, and I love me a good glass cannon.
I just had a very normal time. I could actually upgrade with all of the I could spend points to get some of these abilities as well. It was random what was in the shop. But like I experimented with like the throw mech. I did a bunch of like the push stuff. Tried like a little bit of the elemental things, but they weren't my favorite. I actually found that the most useful stuff was to just like have my mortar, which can move stuff around, and then also put on the tank that I had also a like push thing where it like jumps, and then where it lands, it pushes everything around it, which gave me a lot more manipulation of like if things were like cornered, I could deal with those more easily, because having just the one didn't seem like it was good, but it didn't do everything I needed it to. So once it was all kitted out, like it's pretty good.
Yeah, and
Does a lot of damage.
those kits, those items, like you can buy them at the end of islands. They'll present you with, I think, 3 or 4 pieces of equipment you can buy. And they're cheap. They're 1 reputation each, so you can get a lot if you wanted to. You'll also sometimes get either pilots or weapons from time pods. You'll usually get a reactor, which is your upgrade material that lets you either turn on more weapons or turn on additional health, stuff like that. And then usually one of those additional things. So were you just kind of lucky, like you managed to, if you saw those items, you bought them, or did you find a way to make it more consistent?
Yeah, generally, I mean, there's probably like 20 something options that could show up. So it was uncommon to see a lot of them in each run. But once I was getting to like at least the 3rd island, it was pretty easy to get a consistent thing going, especially because what I would usually do is buy up all of the upgrades, and I don't think that it can repeat. So if there were ones that I was unlikely to use, I could like just turn that in, and then I wouldn't see it next time, and maybe I'll get the thing I actually want.
Yeah, so you can buy them and then sell them for the exact same price you bought them for.
Yeah, there's no exchange rate. It's just 1-to-1. So it was, it was fine. And also, if you get a bunch of extra pilots, you can like leave them on the island.
We're not saying that you're selling the pilot.
Yeah.
But they're being left behind.
But you are getting reputation, and they are not coming with you.
Yes. So in terms of the pilots, did we have any favorites? Like there are generic pilots that you will get to fill out your team, but you get to pick one pilot to carry over from mission to mission, and there are unique pilots that will have special powers beyond whatever they upgrade as they level up.
Yeah. My favorite was there is a girl who is not affected by smoke or webbing.
Yeah, Camilla Vera.
Yeah. She was my favorite because getting locked down by webbing is so annoying, and the smoke is less of an issue because it only comes up so often. Like if
Unless
you're
the rusting hulks.
Yes. Yeah, if I ever played as anything else, then maybe I would know that. But
I think they're already immune to smoke.
Are
No,
they?
they're not. They're not.
They're not?
They can't
Oh,
shoot when
that's
they're in smoke.
I apologize.
They don't take
Yeah.
damage. They don't damage themselves from their electric
Oh,
smoke.
that was it then.
But
Okay.
they cannot shoot when they're in smoke.
hmm Yeah, so the smoke was less of an issue, but not being affected by webbing, like a lot of the things, leapers can web you, and they do like 3 or 5 damage depending on what color they are. Those are very annoying, and also like there's another bug-looking thing. They're all bug-looking things, but it'll web you, and then it's a problem. So I like to avoid that when I can. And There was one of the robots, but I forget which one.
It might be Prospero.
Prospero was who I was
that's
going to
his
say.
name. Yep.
Prospero was one of my favorites. If you equipped Prospero and upgraded him, you could give any mech flying, which is super helpful, because then you can basically just drag enemies into water or holes that kill them instantly, which is super nice.
And you also ignore enemies for the purposes of calculating movement. So usually if you're body blocked by an enemy, you can't go over it. It'll just, kill your movement in a given direction. And because of how dense the city is, sometimes, if there are a number of buildings and an enemy decides to park themselves between two buildings, you might not be able to move in that direction at all because you'd have to go all the way around the building and you won't have enough move. So Prospero just lets you ignore buildings, ignore enemies, and, turn mechs that shouldn't be that mobile incredibly mobile.
Yeah, that's also one reason I liked Henry Kwan, too. He was another pilot who he could move through enemy units as a mech, which is nice. It's not quite as good as Prospero, but still very solid.
Yeah, it's basically flying without the benefits of ignoring ground-based obstructions.
One thing I did want to say, though, about like the whole pilot system, it doesn't have anything to do with gameplay. But like the whole premise is you send this pilot back in time and he can basically, he or she, I apologize, or it, I guess there are a lot of robots, let's just say and they can win the war for the humans / robots, which is sort of an interesting it's basically the historical premise of, it's called like the great man theory, that history is driven by these great individuals as opposed to these sort of fundamental and intangible forces that really drive history, as far as I'm concerned. So I wonder, like, one, who cares? But two, is there a way to like make a game that isn't beholden to this great man theory of history? Like, is Zelda beholden to it in the fact that like Link is just changing the world constantly?
So games that are more driven by the events themselves, like coalitions of people, large coalitions, or would an ensemble cast count?
Ensemble cast, I think, would still be too small. I'm basically looking for a game that offers like a Marxist theory of history, whereas like the real driving force is the class war, not any individual, member of the bourgeoisie or proletariat.
Well, at the end of the day, you need to have characters, right? Most of the time.
I know, that's what I'm
So you're looking for the opposite of Final Fantasy, one man fighting chaos. You want
pretty much
every man fighting the system.
I just want like basically the system. I want chaos grinding every man down.
So you should play Papers, Please.
I have, and I enjoyed it. Basically, yeah, that makes sense now.
Yeah, Papers, Please is one. I mean, Sim City to a certain extent, or
you are the god. Like you're the character, though. You're God.
Sure. Or I would say RTS games also sometimes. Like StarCraft's story mode would not be a good fit, but maybe an Age of Empires multiplayer, you could say, it's just civilizations clashing. Look at these serfs picking this wheat so that we can make more soldiers.
Now build a church. We've upgraded.
We use iron now. But yeah, I think Papers, Please is the game you want. Just nothing getting any better. You just letting people through or not letting people through.
You're just detritus in the flow of history.
For sure.
Sounds fun.
It's a very important game. I don't know if it's fun.
I've played Papers, Please as well. It made me sad.
Yep. That's what it's for.
Yep.
So yeah, my favorite pilot was definitely Prospero as well, and I think this game, it is funny when they refer to the time travelers, like, all the people you're saving are assholes.
They're so mean to you. The lady on the desert planet island?
She's a jerk.
She's so mean.
Jessica Karn of the RST Corporation.
Yeah. Every time you screw up even a little bit, she's like, well, if this is the best the future has to offer, we're fucking dead.
It's like there's time travel. Like, relax, we'll be fine.
But she doesn't believe you're time travelers. Is the like if you fuck up on her island, and you like fail, she will be like, "All right, well, let's see if you're actually a time traveler."
And then you peace out. You know, the real move would be like if Jessica Karn gives you shit, your time traveler should be like, look, Jessica Karn will survive this. It ain't gonna be you though, honey.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Just
I'm
like
gonna
some of
go
the
back in time and make sure you're never born.
some of the quotes. Careless, that building should have been protected. Your incompetency will result in hundreds of deaths. Like, my goodness.
Look, lady, I'm trying my best here. You try driving one of these mechs in rush hour traffic.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they're so mean. And then the robot, the ice island with the frickin' robots, and they're like, hey, you really need to save these robots, even though they're attacking you constantly. Oh, these AIs sure are killing people, but look, if you so much as harm one hair on their head, I swear I'm going to fail you and not give you reputation.
I do like that for the challenge it presents, but also fuck those robots.
Also, fuck them robots.
Usually they only have one health though, so if you
Yes.
want to kill them, you can do so pretty easily.
Thankfully, they're very feeble. They put up very little resistance when you put the pillow over their head.
There is, too, I don't know if we mentioned that there is a freeze team.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they're kind of annoying because I'm pretty sure they freeze themselves, too, most of the time.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
I never take that one.
Yeah,
I've seen it a lot, and I refuse to freeze myself. Although it is a good defensive move because you will not take damage. Yeah.
An icy cocoon. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely merit to freezing something in place instead of killing it. I mean, it's basically a one-hit kill for the purposes of surviving the battle. As long as you can keep something frozen. And then it also causes future enemies to waste turns unfreezing other enemies instead of attacking the buildings.
Yeah, they do seem to prioritize that. It's odd.
They do. Yeah, I mean, there are some teams that I think are just much more flexible than others. Like, the teams that both have offensive and defensive capabilities baked into their mechanic are just going to be more powerful in a lot of cases than the ones that are pure offense. And a unit like the Steel Judoka, which is all about repositioning, because they don't have just straight up aggression, it just means you're often overwhelmed unless the map gives you a nice, handy, source of water to dunk things in for insta kills. And I think the Steel Judoka brought up one of my biggest gripes with some of the logic of the game. There are times when your character clearly has an ability that logically would work one way, but because of the mechanics of the game, it does not work that way. So one of the units is the Steel Judoka's main mech. It has a move where it grabs a unit in front of it and then throws it behind it. So it grabs from the square in front and throws it to the square behind. If you have an enemy in front of you and behind you, the logical thing, and the thing that I thought this move, like this was the whole reason the move existed, was to pick up an enemy and throw it on top of another enemy, thereby killing both of them or damaging both of them severely. It turns out, instead of doing that, your unit can't attack at all if there's an enemy in front of you and behind you. You just can't do it. Or if there's a building behind you and an enemy in front of you, you can't use your attack because you can't throw the enemy onto the building. So I found that unit super limited because you basically have to always be attacking from the perimeter, and some of the buildings, some of the maps will just be pretty dense, and so you end up with this unit that, it's your main damage unit, and you just can't use it sometimes. Another problem I had was with the one of the mechs in the Rusting Hulks, the one that I said was very good because it smoked behind and it shot a missile in front. Sometimes you want to just get the smoke behind you, but because you have to shoot at a square, it sometimes meant that you couldn't actually shoot because maybe you were really close to the edge and you have to shoot at least two squares away with missile mechs, with mortars. So instead of being able to pick off the map because clearly there's space off the map, like that. Who cares if you shoot there? You just can't shoot at all. So like there were definitely some times where logically it didn't make sense, but the rules were consistent, but they just didn't work. If you took the game to be more literal, how the world would actually be arranged.
Yeah, I understand why they did it from a game like making perspective. Specifically the tossing things. If it didn't do enough damage to kill the thing that it landed on, then where would they have to put it? How much damage would be dealt to it? It would be like a coding mess, because then you would have to offset it to a different square, and what if there's something on that square? Where do you put it?
Yep.
Yeah, I get it, but it was a little annoying.
I get all of it. Also, but like if you're on the edge of the map, you also can't throw things off the edge of the map.
Yeah.
So like it just made this unit that it's the main unit for this army, and it just felt really hamstrung.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if there was a way to let you just target any square, like if that would be fine, but I don't know. It's part of like the chess thing, like you can't move a piece off the chessboard,
Yeah, and I mean,
Guess.
I'm guessing that they must have play tested this and
Oh,
found
yeah.
this was the solution. Like this game's very finely tuned.
Mm-hmm.
I just found sometimes you just want to own them. You just want to do the cool thing. Like I'm gonna fling this enemy behind me. What if I could pick the square it landed on? I know that would probably be too powerful, but that unit's not very good.
Mm-hmm. I like the throwing things, but only as a additional effect when I was not punching things with the like mech, the primary mech, because I could just pick something up and then throw it in the water behind me. That was very satisfying because it kills it instantly, most of them.
It's a great secondary move. It's a bummer when it's your only move.
Yep. I get that.
So at the end of the day, did each of us beat this game at least once, or how do we feel about kind of the final encounter and the overall difficulty?
The final encounter is good. It's basically like a 2-stage battle where you're burrowing underground to kill the rest of these Vex. And the final battle is mostly like a stall tactic. We have to protect this like neutrino bomb until it goes off and destroys them. I mean, the only issue with it is it's basically just more of the same. You've played 4 islands. Here's one more.
Yeah, I completed the game on a 2 and 3 island run. I did not do the 4-step one yet. I am literally like at the final battle on my save right now. So I'm going to try and finish the 4-step one. But it's the same every time. I mean, there's a volcano, rocks are falling, there's a lot of hazards, but there's no like big boss or anything. It'd be cool if there was.
Yeah, I beat the game 3 times, twice on 4 island runs and once on a 2 island run. I have never done a 3 island run. And the final battle is very similar to the other stuff. I found the game, unlike FTL, where FTL was the game previously by this developer. That game has very novel gameplay. Like, there are not many games that play like FTL, period, in terms of how it handles ship combat and how it handles even like the events. It was pretty seminal in the roguelike space, in the like modern late aughts, early 2010 roguelike revival and boom. This game, I don't know if it needs more randomness or less randomness, but I just found at a certain point I was doing the same moves over and over and over again and just running the same puzzle, and it stopped being engaging for me just because I felt like I was seeing the same scenarios over and over, and the only question was, am I going to get hit with something really messed up that I can't account for, or am I going to get something especially novel that will break this run open? But
Yeah.
otherwise, I'm going to do the same thing.
I'm wondering if there is a like modding scene for this game, because it feels like you could program in harder challenges.
And you can play on hard. I didn't.
Yeah, I never did. Um, but I'm curious if it's like something you can put like a bigger boss into to see how that plays, or fight against other mechs, like I thought we were going to be doing originally. Something like that. I don't know. Let's see. Into the breach.
Modding.
Any mods for this?
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like at the end of the day, the mechs are what they are, their attacks are what they are, and the enemies, there are only so many. So you're just kind of playing it to play it. Like, do you enjoy this puzzle? Do you want to keep playing the same puzzle? And at a certain point, I felt like I had gotten my mileage out of it. Now, I played it for like 10 plus hours, so, that's not to say that this was a bad experience or anything. It's just some of these other roguelikes, I found the gameplay more engaging, or the variety such that even if the base gameplay wasn't what grabbed me, the difference between the runs was so novel that I might keep doing it anyway. But this game did not have either of those ends. It was mostly a chess puzzle that I felt like I had intellectually solved. And it's also like tiring, I found, to think this hard about every single move. So
yeah, it's exhausting.
It's a hard game to play given its serving size of like 2 hours for a successful run, 1 to 2 hours.
Yeah, I played 25 hours of this, specifically because I found that I had the best time with it, like when I was waking up in the morning, to get my brain going, basically. It was very easy to just like, it's kind of like a crossword puzzle, where you're just like, solve some of these mech puzzles, and then now I'm fresh to go about my day, I guess. So I don't know. It kind of grew on me a little bit.
That makes sense to me. I think honestly, like weirdly enough, the ideal version of this game would be like an iOS port. Like if I could just have this in my pocket, pull it out, like play a map or two, and then stop.
Oh yeah, put this on a phone.
Oh hell yeah! I was looking it up though, and apparently, like, I mean, obviously it came out in 2018, so it doesn't seem like there's any like impetus or desire to do it. The closest right now is the Switch version.
Yes.
But if like this was a cell phone game, I would hella buy it.
Oh yeah, I'd spend $2 to $5 on this.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, any closing thoughts on Into the Breach?
I want to say my thing.
Go for it.
So, many of you may know, I went to game school at one point in my life.
That's where you got the title of mistress.
Yes,
that's what
exactly.
They give you.
Well, I got that for creative writing, but it goes hand in hand. One of the first assignments, like they did it in the summer program that I did before I went to school for game design, is you take a simple game, in this case, tic-tac-toe, and you add rules to it in order to make a new game out of it. It feels very much like one of those sorts of games where they had a chessboard in front of them. Because I went to school for this, I can see what they did when they were playtesting it. They would have like their little paper cutouts on a chessboard, and they would just like move it around and see what maps worked and stuff like that. Because that's what you do. You don't have to code the whole thing. It's what I describe as a game designer's game. Given that these guys were already making FTL, stuff like that, this is a very logical leap for them to make, because it's very it's solvable. You can code enemies that are smart enough that there is a challenge. It feels like you are making progress when you are solving the puzzles, and it's one of those things that you can just like sit down and play for a surprising amount of time, because each run can last like up to 2 hours, which is kind of a lot for a game like this. But so once I like knew where they were coming from, I was much more down with this game, because I've made a game like this in prototyping, and I know what they were going for. But originally I was not understanding that this was a roguelike, and the fact that I was like trying to solve puzzles rather than strong arm it with like Fire Emblem tactics.
Yeah.
My initial approach is like, okay, I'm going to swarm the enemies. Why are the enemies moving first? Now they're in completely different positions. I was very upset about this originally.
Yeah, your mechs at the end of these matches are not going to pair off to make stronger mechs in the future.
That would be kind of sick, though.
Yeah.
And now the mechs kiss.
But imagine you could like meld your robot mech onto the treads of the tank mech, and now you've got more movement. There's
Let's
something
play custom
to that.
Robo.
Oh, that'd be sick. That's a good pick.
If you want
I'm
to
ready.
play, if you want to play a game that's like that, custom Robo.
We'll think about it. I like BattleTech. I was thinking this was going to be a BattleTech, but
Yeah,
it was not.
I liked the Metabots game.
The Metabots game was also fine. I've got that on the Game Boy Advance
Oh
somewhere.
man, that's a throwback.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to beat a dude up and then steal his arm so that your dude can have his arm.
That's very expensive. Weren't those like kids fighting mech robot things?
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
pretty
kids
much.
own those robots and we're like, look, you lost. Give me his head.
That's mine now.
You can keep his soul, but I need his head.
Questionable.
Yes. Maybe dubious, but hey, I mean, same thing with Mega Man Battle Network. I've killed your friend and now I've trapped his soul as a card that I will use
That's
occasionally.
not how that. It's data. That's not how that works.
Yep, that's how that works. You're
Okay.
trapping souls. Roll
If
exists
you
only
want
in
to
your
believe
card
that.
now.
That's true. I mean, you never fight her, so.
Yep. All right. So, did you also want to talk about tank tactics? Or
Yeah, tank tactics. This game is basically tank tactics in digital format. If you are interested in learning about a political game that almost tore a game studio apart, the studio Half Brick, which designed Fruit Ninja and other stuff, I'm not sure what, they did this office game called Tank Tactics, which was basically just they had a bunch of grid pages and little paper cutout tanks, which everyone was assigned to, and then they could like move the tanks around in like straight lines, and then they could shoot at someone else. And they had a number of actions that like you had to accumulate over a set period of time, and then if you got up enough of those, you would be able to like do some cool moves and completely destroy someone else. It was a very engaging game, because people were playing it so much that they weren't getting any work done. And this kind of fits the same premise, except that had like a political game element to it, where people are like forming alliances and stuff like that. This is like the core
there's
gameplay.
treachery.
Oh yeah. It was. They had to ban it because otherwise it was going to tear the studio apart, literally. people would be angry with each other. There is
People
a very
couldn't
good
work on the same team anymore because they got
no,
tank tacticsed.
literally, like, being part of a game design studio, you have to sort of like be able to communicate with your other designers, and this was putting such a rift between people that they just couldn't work together.
Which is
so,
bad. You don't want
yeah,
that.
yeah, it's not great when you're trying to design the next Fruit Ninja or whatever came out after that. Yeah, so I thought a lot about that game while I was playing this one because it's the same principles, like just in fighting kaiju.
Now I'm trying to think of what the sequel to Fruit Ninja would be, and all I can think of is Nut Knight.
Hold on to that one. That's
yeah,
pretty
I would
good.
totally play Nut Night.
I mean, we can't play it in November because
That's true. No Nut Knight in November.
Yeah.
But
We'll
look,
have to tackle that in December.
sliver this almond. Do it.
It's too hard. I can't.
I can't sliver the almond. It's moving too fast.
Anyway,
Check that game out. The story of Tank Tactics is pretty great.
yeah.
It's a cool read. I forget what article I read when I found it, but I'm sure if you look it up, you will be able to find it, dear listener. All right, well, with that, I think we are at the end of Into the Breach, which means now it is, once again, your turn to pick.
It's
What
my
game we're playing next.
turn.
Yep.
Okay. Let me get my notes out because I picked it last time and then I forgot all about it. The game that we are going to play next. I hope you are ready for a Metroidvania.
Ah, hell yeah. Finally.
The game that we are going to play is Unsighted.
You know, I was expecting you to say Metroid Dread.
Yeah, I already 100% in Metroid Dread, and I would play it, but I had to play it on hard, and I don't want to do that.
What is Unsighted?
Unsighted, I will bring up the...
This does not
Steam
seem to be a
page.
Metroidvania at all.
It doesn't look like it.
Is it
You would
another
be
RTS?
surprised. No, it looks like...
I'm less interested now.
Is it spelled UNSIGHTED?
UNSIGHTED, yes.
So,
It
explore
looks
your
like
way.
an action game.
Awoken to a world ruined by war, Alma must traverse the vast city of Arcadia before the life force of her friends and herself wither away. Time is ticking and every moment matters. Who will you save, and who will you leave to turn unsighted? Is that it?
Bum, bum, bum. Yes,
Is that a corgi I see?
That is it. There is a corgi involved. This game looks very intense. I was watching someone play it. It is by a studio from Brazil, I believe. Studio Pixel Punk.
That's a good name for a studio.
Yeah. And it's also gay as hell. So
Yeah, I was
had
gonna
to pick
say
it.
this trailer seems to be both gay as hell and also some sort of action game.
Yes. So we're gonna
These
try it
robots
out.
love each other.
Yeah, they sure do. I will warn you if you choose to play with the timer on, feels bad. You can turn it off because it's way too intense with the timer on.
Okay,
But-
can do. I am at the point in my life where I don't need the game to tell me I'm bad at it.
It's just it can be a lot. So
I already know I'm bad at it. It's fine.
I'm sure
I can
you'll
live
be
with
fine.
that. All right, so next up we are playing Unsighted. I'm glad this isn't a Metroidvania.
It is a Metroidvania.
Is it?
It is.
Oh, but it's not 2D. It's not a 2D side.
Yes. No, it's like a oh, what's that game? Shoot, what's it called? I think Billy likes it.
It's not Valda's Story Abyssal City.
Are you talking about Game of the Year of all the Story of Abyssal City?
That game is an actual Metroidvania. Wuppo is also a Metroidvania.
Hyper Light Drifter.
Okay, yes. Hyper Light
Yeah.
Drifter kind of has some Metroidvania-y stuff, but we played so many games that are actual factual Metroidvanias that this not being just literally the most Metroidvania-y Metroidvania
Yeah.
That's fine.
It's a combination Hyper Light Drifter and Metroidvania.
That's
You'll
fine
see.
by me. All right.
It'll make sense.
Well, looking forward to it. Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, I actually feel like this is a game I can see myself returning to a decent amount, just based on the differences between the various squads.
Thank you, M.
Yeah. It grew on me a lot. I am honestly going to open it back up and try and finish my run. My 4-island run.
You got this.
I got this.
If you want to win, just use the Rusted Hulks. They're outstanding.
I'm already locked in. It's too late.
Fair enough. And thank you, listeners. Reminder, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. Till next time, peace.
Break it down.